In this week's drive, we look again at the remarkable rise of the Red Baron. Drive with a hero who just loves racing. Join in some torrid DTM door-to-door action. And kick off an unusual tribute to Senna. All this and more in this week's Drive. Four races into the new Formula One season and Michael Schumacher's right at the top of his game. The six-times world champion has 4 starts, 4 wins and 3 pole positions so far this year. Maximum points in all 4 races equals the record for the best start to the year, his own. Schumacher has won the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola 6 times, 5 of them in the last 6 years, the sole exception being a win by his younger brother Ralf in 2002. The champion driver has also been made an ambassador of the tiny Principality of San Marino. But the champ is refusing to get carried away, despite an increasing sense in Formula One that the sport is in for a repeat of 2002, when Ferrari won 15 of the 17 races.
Certainly we cannot maintain this sort of level for all the year. Then the tough races are going to come for us.
However, Schumi is closer to 40 than 30, and retirement at the end of the year is a possibility, especially if he does clinch a 7th World Championship. With this in mind, Jenson Button's rise to prominence hasn't gone unnoticed at Ferrari. Driving a Honda-powered BAR, Button broke an otherwise perfect winning streak, beating Schumacher into 2nd place on the starting grid at Imola. In the race, the pair swapped positions, and Jenson's 2nd place was a career best, after his 2 3rd places so far this year. Button's advance is startling. Having waited 68 races for his first podium, a 5-year drought in which he was dropped by 2 teams and derided as a playboy, 3 in a row has prompted Schumi to describe the Englishman as his biggest rival this season. Ferrari's Formula One technical director Ross Brawn was very impressed with what Button has done this season. Beating Michael to pole was a fantastic performance, and Brawn thinks Jenson's doing a fantastic job. For his part, Ferrari's sporting director Jean Todt is concentrating on this year.
We are very focused because we know that it's a long way in front of us.
Ross Brawn himself has tipped to return to England, perhaps with McLaren, if Michael does decide to retire. Meanwhile, over at rivals Williams BMW, Michael's brother Ralf is enduring an icy relationship and looks certain to step out at the end of the year, if not sooner. His teammate, Juan Pablo Montoya, has already announced he's leaving to race for McLaren next season, but until then the team is apparently focused on closing the gap, even if, realistically, they know that they are constantly trying to catch up.
Difficult to tell. I think Ferrari is going to be very strong. Pretty cold there, so it's not a perfect Michelin situation, but still there's a podium there, and we try and get it.
I think we've got new aero bits in the car, and hopefully they help us to close the gap in Ferrari. But Ferrari at the same time has probably got new things as well.
We tested every week. We tested tires, chassis parts, aero parts, engine parts, new engine components. And I think we made a big, not a big step, but we made a step forward. On the other hand, you can imagine that a gap like Ferrari to all the others cannot be closed within 2 or 3 weeks. So it'll take some time. We are working hard, and I think we are improving. I hope we can close the gap step by step.
But the motivation doesn't change. If anything, we're more motivated now because we really want to try and take the challenge to Ferrari. We want to beat them. At the end of the day, our aim is still the World Championship.
In the absence of trophies, the team will pack shelves with a new range of Williams-branded clothing, assuming buyers can be found to support them. Schumacher's easy domination is obvious, and teammate Rubens Barrichello scored well in the first 3 races, although 6th place at Imola wasn't the result he wanted, and Button looks set to overtake him. The Ferrari team have 64 points in the Constructors' Championship, more than double their next nearest rivals, and former champions McLaren is feeling the pinch worse than most. There's no better way to remember a Brazilian sporting hero than with a soccer match, even a racing driver.
I believe that Ayrton, for us, is still an important symbol. I think his story and his way of being and his values have remained extremely current. It's 10 years since his death, and I think it's important to pay homage in order to remember everything he gave us.
Formula One stars took on Brazil's 1994 World Cup winning soccer team 3 days before the San Marino Grand Prix. They met in a charity match held in honour of triple world champion Ayrton Senna. This year's race marked the 10th anniversary of the Brazilian driver's death in a crash at Imola. But a decade on, Senna provides inspiration through a charity that now bears his name, and the €33,000 from ticket sales will help disadvantaged Brazilian youth.
It is a celebration and a homage to someone who, more than a Formula One champion, was an example of values, determination, perseverance and will, inside and outside racing.
Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello were joined by Fernando Alonso and Jarno Trulli. Together, the drivers took on the great Dunga, Alder, Leonardo, Taffarel and other members of the 1994 World Cup winning team. Alonso embodies the esteem in which the memory of Senna is still held in Formula One, even among the younger generation of drivers who never had the chance to meet him.
Senna for Formula One is a legend. He's the best driver probably in the mind of all the people, and it's always a big moment for motorsport to remember Senna.
Schumacher won the ill-fated 1994 race that also claimed the life of Austrian rookie Roland Ratzenberger in practice a day earlier, and he went on to claim the first of his 6 world titles that year. For the Brazilian World Cup winners, their triumph in 1994 came with Senna's death fresh in their minds. Alder remembers Senna as a champion of the people, one of the few non-soccer playing Brazilians to be considered in this way.
The most important thing for us to remember about Senna is that he has always been open to people. And Brazilians will always be very proud to have such a champion as him.
While remembering Senna in Italy, ironically the country that Brazil beat in the final, Senna's friend and fellow Brazilian Rubens Barrichello was able to score once. Rubens also suffered a high-speed crash in practice before the 1994 race that claimed Senna's life, and he was lucky to survive. Senna's popularity was not confined just to Formula One.
I think Ayrton Senna was one of the greatest Formula One driver ever, and you know, I have just a nice memory about him. I didn't know him, and when he died, I was here in Imola. I was watching Formula One Grand Prix from a trip from. I was a guest in that race, and what I can say is, you know, Ayrton bring to the Formula One world so much.
The final score was 5-all in the light-hearted match, which saw the best players, including Schumacher, change shirts and play for the other team during the second half. Schumacher scored 2 goals, 1 in each half. The first DTM, or German touring car race of the year at Hockenheim, pitched reigning champion Bernd Schneider against several former stars of Formula One. During the 3-day event, a total of 118,000 spectators came, a record for a DTM race at the track. Former Ferrari driver and Canadian Grand Prix winner Jean Alesi led from pole position at the start in his Mercedes, followed by the Audis of Martin Tomczyk and Tom Christensen. Alesi's teammate Schneider made his first pit stop on lap 7, but by then had overtaken Tomczyk. Back on the track, it was 4 abreast into corners with taps and bumps all over. One of the main protagonists was Peter Dumbreck in an Opel Vectra GTS V8. After gearbox problems in Saturday's qualifying, the Scotsman had started from 21st position, but he quickly fought up to 6th place. After 13 laps, the lead was still held by Alesi, but Englishman Gary Pafford had moved up to 2nd ahead of Schneider. Former Grand Prix driver Heinz-Harald Frentzen had a close shave in the pits. In a battle of the magazines, Frentzen's Stern car pitted with the Playboy-sponsored car of his Opel teammate Laurent Aiello. Desperate to get back out in front, the German would finish 11th, 2 places behind the Frenchman. Matthias Ekstrom in the Audi Works team's return to DTM had to make a second pit stop on his 17th lap. Problems for Alesi allowed Paffert to get by, and then he too was passed by Schneider on lap 22. Alesi went out with a damaged under tray on lap 25, the result of a warm-up lap run over a curb. After 2 on-track bumps, a broken wishbone on Schneider's Mercedes slowed him down, giving Ekstrom the chance to overtake and putting the reigning champion out on lap 33. At the finish, it was 23-year-old Paffert 2.2 seconds ahead of teammate Christian Albers, with Audi driver Ekstrom coming in 3rd.
I feel a bit sorry for Bernd because he drove a really good race, but no, I'm really happy to win my first race. It's incredible.
It was Paffert's first win in 9 starts. The next race will be at Estoril in Portugal.
By various drivers,
over the Atlantic, the half-mile oval at Martinsville, Virginia, saw the Advance Auto Parts 500 NASCAR race. The tightly packed field got off to a clean start in blazing sunshine for race 8 of 36 in the series, with Jeff Gordon in pole position. On lap 120, Joe Nemechek tapped Ken Schrader on the side and sent him into the inside wall. Joe finished 27th, 4 laps down, while Ken went out with no brakes and bodywork damage. Later, on lap 214, Brendan Gowen spun and banged into the outside wall. That brought out another caution flag, and starting from 11th, the rookie driver made it to the finish in 17th place. Then Jeff Gordon hit what appeared to be a pothole in the track's concrete surface in turn 3. A chunk of the track came up and tumbled onto the road. A piece hit the right front corner of Gordon's car and caused some damage. The hole was first seen on lap 279 by a NASCAR observer, who said a piece of concrete had come out of the track and bounced out of the racing groove. Less than 10 laps later, a hole that was described by one driver's in-car scanner as 6 or 7 inches deep had developed. Officials decided to red flag the race. Up to that point, Gordon had led for 180 of the 291 laps run so far.
That had to be quite a chunk.
Drivers were able to take a welcome mid-race 1-hour break as the pothole was inspected and repaired. The hole was filled with a hardening fluid and blowers were used to speed the drying process. In the end, Rusty Wallace, a NASCAR veteran and Rookie of the Year 20 years ago and 1989 champion, held off Bobby Labonte to win the race, his 55th career victory. But it was close. Wallace beat Labonte to the line by just over half a second.
Boy, has he made a difference. And this is his first win.
Meanwhile, a crowd of about 70,000 turned out on a warm and sunny day in Southern California for the Champ Car Series season opener. With Newman Haas Racing teammates Bruno Junqueira and Sébastien Bourdais ahead of him at the start, Paul Tracy, the defending race and series champion, wasted little time in making his move. As a result, the first rolling start didn't meet with officials' requirements, and the field had to go around again and get into a closer formation. After the first lap was run under caution, the green flag came out for the start of lap 2 on the tight 2-mile downtown street circuit. Tracy's car darted to the inside, fishtailing for a moment before he completed. In the pack behind the leaders, 6 cars wound up in a crash as they jostled for position going into the first turn. Former champion Jimmy Vasser, Tasso Marquez and rookie Alex Sperafico were all sidelined, while rookies AJ Allmendinger, Nelson Philippe and Roberto Gonzalez lost laps but were able to continue. Except for the laps around his pit stops, the Canadian-born Tracy led the rest of the way in the 81-lap event, beating Junqueira to the finish by 5.6 seconds, or most of the last straight. Tracy won the Long Beach race for the 3rd time in 5 years and for the 4th time overall. Bourdais, last year's top rookie, finished 3rd from pole position, followed by Patrick Carpentier, Mario Dominguez and former Formula One driver and Champ Car rookie Justin Wilson.
He's winning it. He's the victor at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach.
After losing his legs in a horrific crash 2.5 years ago, Italian driver Alex Zanardi has returned to racing. Now, walking proof of the power of the mind, Zanardi's recovery astounded experts and astonished his fans. At 37, the former Formula One and Champ Car driver has signed with BMW for this season's European Touring Car Championship in a specially modified car. His recovery since September 2001 has been remarkable. Leaving the pit lane on lap 142 of the kart race at the Lausitzring, his car went into a sudden spin and was hit by Alex Tagliani at 185 miles an hour. His Reynard Honda broke in two, leaving his legs exposed outside the chassis. Alex arrived at the hospital seriously injured and with only a litre of blood left. The doctors performed an emergency operation to save his life, but with the loss of both legs. After many operations and with the help of his wife Daniela and son Nicolo, he had recovered sufficiently to return home 1.5 months after the crash.
Well, simply because I wanted to enjoy life. It is obvious that motor racing is one of my passions, a very big one if I've done it for such a long time. So the most important thing for me is that today I've been able to regain a lot of independency. I can do things on my own, I can drive, I can walk, I can live a normal life.
His passion for racing was proved last year. After a 1.5-year pit stop, he made a return behind the wheel of a champ car at Lausitzring when he completed the 13 laps he was unable to finish because of the crash.
In my adventure may seem to be very, very particular, kind of heroic to a certain degree, but there's nothing heroical in my daily life. I only do what I know that I can do. At the end of the day, it is not your right foot that makes the decision when it's time to brake or when it's time to accelerate. Everything it comes from here. So I want to believe that here I'm the same person as I used to be 3 years ago.
Late last year, Alex drove a BMW in the final event of the European Touring Car Championship in a car with special controls, finishing an amazing 7th. He admits that even before the accident, he was thinking of slowing down.
So I was not longer prepared to travel so much, to always live out of a suitcase, to do 20+ races a year, all the testing, all the public appearances. I wanted to, enjoy life a little bit more. But this doesn't mean that I was tired of my race car. I still enjoy to drive my race car. Simply, I wanna enjoy life a little bit more. I wanna be a good father for my son, a good husband for my wife, a good friend for my friend, and so I found this compromise, which seems to be right for me.
The modifications to his car are continuous. He operates the throttle with a ring on the steering wheel, changes gear through a servo-driven clutch and a switch on the gear stick, and operates the brake pedals with his artificial right leg. Considering the controls are still evolving, his results are impressive. A 10th, 2 9ths and an 8th place. A remarkable comeback for a man nearly killed 2.5 years ago. The Rally of Oman, third of the 8-round Middle East Rally Championship, was held between Al Khurrum and Muscat. Qatar's Nasser Saleh Al Attiyah and co-driver Chris Patterson started the event as favourites. The event was back in the championship for the first time since 1998. Hamad Al Wahabi of Oman briefly led the rally before suffering a blown engine, allowing Al Attiyah and Patterson to steer their Subaru into an early lead. The real battle was for the other places. The rally attracted a record entry of 35 teams from around the Middle East and as far as Great Britain and Ireland. A new rule limited entries to the Group N class and encouraged more teams to enter. Qasimi and co-driver Michael Orr had been in second place in their Subaru before the engine went out on the 12th stage. They'd been embroiled in a battle with Cypriots Soulofios and Achilleos in a Mitsubishi, who eventually finished 4th, putting them 3rd in the championship. Al Attiyah had very little time to study the stages, but that hardly hampered him from taking the overall honours. Nasser reached the podium over 7 minutes ahead of Lebanese Mikhail Sali and Ziad Chahab. Al Attiyah said that the event's final stage had been a bit boring for him, as he had a big lead and there was no point to push hard. He slowed down to make sure he took maximum points and stayed in the hunt to retain the title. 2 minutes separated 7 cars at the start of the second leg, and drivers from 9 countries filled the final 9 places. The eventual runner-up in Oman was Mikhail Sali in a Mitsubishi, and he claimed equal 5th place in the Middle East Rally Championship. Dubai's Sheikh Suhail bin Khalifa Al Maktoum and co-driver Wael Marjan returned to the Middle East Series for the first time in 7 years, finishing 3rd. The triumph saw Al Attiyah reclaim the lead in the Middle East Series despite missing the Bahrain round. This was Nasser's 2nd win this year, putting him on 20 points, 2 ahead of the UAE's Khalid Al Qasimi. The second round of the Trials Championship was held 150 kilometres southeast of the city of Porto. Having retained his indoor title, Spaniard Adam Raga is keen to claim the outdoor title too. A 3-way battle for the victory emerged during the second lap between Adam Raga, Mark Friescher and Dougie Lampkin, with the British rider holding a slim advantage right until the, unlucky for some, section 13, where he crashed back off the final step to score maximum penalties. This mistake would be decisive and was enough to allow Raga, who had been fantastic throughout his second tour, to take the win ahead of Friescher and leave Lampkin on the lowest step of the podium. For Takahisa Fujinami, the second day was a great response to a disastrous first round that saw him finish 5th and slip from 2nd to 4th overall. His response on Sunday was a solid 2nd-place finish. Dougie Lampkin finished 3rd with a disappointing 5-1-1 penalty scorecard. On Sunday, Raga held the lead again. Lampkin failed to improve on the first day, and he ended the event in 3rd place with a 5 penalty at section 6. Albert Kapastani ended the event 4th. Adam Raga confirmed just how competitive the 2004 FIM World Series is by becoming the 3rd different winner after only 3 trials. The Spaniard earned his first victory of the season thanks to an incredible last loop when he only dropped 5 marks. The last Spanish rider to claim the outdoor title was Mark Colomer back in 1996. Raga heads Lampkin by 1 point, 68 points to 67. Fujinami's 2nd place moves him up to 3rd overall on 61 points. Round 3 takes them to Motegi in Japan. Actor Ewan McGregor is preparing for the journey of a lifetime with his friend Charlie Boorman. Shortly, they will set off on 2 motorcycles to ride from London to New York. Both are keen bikers, and in 3 months they'll travel through 20,000 miles of some of the most beautiful and hostile terrain through Europe, Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia and Siberia. They've undertaken training in survival and self-defense skills and advanced first aid. McGregor played heroin addict Renton in Trainspotting and the young Obi-Wan Kenobi in 2 Star Wars films. He met Boorman on the set of Serpent's Kiss, and the pair's friendship grew from a shared love of motorcycles. The journey, dubbed The Long Way Round, is being filmed for a television series, and the pair also have a contract for a book, so they won't exactly be on their own during the journey. Sounds like a dream trip to me too. So whether you're stopping in for a splash and dash, enduring a NASCAR track attack, or out for a dusty drive in the desert, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.